Hi everybody, thanks for coming. So like Carrie said, I work at the Marquette Law School and I use census data a lot, probably like all of you. And people sometimes ask me, how much do I really trust the information I'm getting? Now, my real answer is something like, well, the Census Bureau employs skilled professional employees and it uses gold standard methodology and it compels people to participate. So that makes it all pretty good. But while all of that's true, I wanted to be able to answer from my own work and from Milwaukee specifically, how good is the census really here in our city? Now, some census information is also measured elsewhere in more complete ways. For example, the census measures the number of total housing units at different geographies, but the city of Milwaukee, the city assessor's office, collects that information for each parcel in the city. Now, no data is perfect, but I think governments are usually pretty good at collecting the data they use to tax us. Also, the census counts people who can slip through the cracks, but the city assessor accounts for the use of every square yard in the city. So I took one simple statistic, the number of total residential units, and compared the census number with the city master property file number, call it the MPROP number for short. Now when we talk about neighborhood census data, we are usually using one of two geographic levels, either census tracts or a smaller subdivision of those tracts called census block groups. Tract or block group data comes from one of two data sources, either the decennial census, that's the big one every 10 years, or the American Community Survey, called the ACS. The decennial census attempts to contact every household in the country, but the ACS is just a huge survey which covers about 2.3 million households a year. The ACS is the source of our really interesting information about education, income, language, employment, and other things, but luckily for me, both the ACS and the decennial census measure total housing units, which is my test statistic. When measuring small geographies, the ACS pools its responses and only releases a 5-year average. So the most recent data for tracts and block groups is the 2012 to 2016 average. So I compared 4 things in all. I compared the 2010 census full count to the 2010 MPROP count of housing units. And I compared the 5-year American Community Survey estimate to an MPROP average of the same years. And I did this for census tracts and census block groups, both for the 2010 and the 5-year ACS average. So here are the results for the 2010 census. So you can see on the y-axis, that is the percent difference between the census estimates and the actual city MPROP count. The median difference, or error, was just 1.8% for tracts and 2.1% for block groups, and there's no systematic error in either direction. That's really good. As I expected, the ACS had a bit more error because, after all, it is a survey and not a full count. The median difference between the 2012-2016 ACS and the MPROP was 2.1% for tracts and 8.1% for block groups. Again, no systematic error in either direction. That 8.1% though is quite a bit higher. Since the ACS is a survey and not a census, it comes with a margin of error set at the 90% confidence interval. In other words, if the ACS really is a random sample, the real number should fall inside the margin of error 90% of the time. So I checked. For block groups, the margin of error is correct 90.8% of the times. For tracts, it gets it right 91.9% of the time. This is a big bright spot. All of the inaccuracies in the ACS data can be explained by random sampling error. In survey research, that sort of known unknown is just the cost of doing business. So my takeaways are the census is as good as the Census Bureau represents it to be. The margin of error for block groups is high just because the samples are small. If you're using ACS data, I'd say you're better off using tracts and sacrificing the narrow geographic specificity block groups give you. But if you're using decennial data, block groups and tracts are both very accurate. As always, if you can get the data you need from a more thorough source than the census, do that. Thanks for listening. Using multiple sources to test data quality is an ongoing project of mine. I've done a lot more than you see here. And if you want to talk about any of it, I'd be happy to get in touch. Thanks a lot.